Warriors are doing pretty good on Grubbis. You can see here, these are the top 20 DPS on the fight. It's almost all Warriors, and these are the top 20 Warriors. There's a lot of overlap there because we're pretty good on fights that are quick and have low armor. We're going to be going into what abilities people are using. We're going to be checking the top 5 players that have parsed on this fight, which of course are all Warriors, and you're going to want to know how often they use each move. But of course, that's not the only thing you're going to want to know. You're going to know the sequencing of the abilities also. So we're going to make sure to check out their timeline so we can make sure they're all doing the same rotations, and if they're not, we're going to be able to understand the why behind the how. So let's go dig into Nomergon. It's a really big raid, but we're going to be focusing on Grubbis, of course, today. Let's make sure that we answer all of the burning questions. You probably got questions about what type of gear people are taking into raid, runes, and all the other stuff that goes into preparing before you even get to the boss fight. So let's dig in on people's stats, check out what the top 5 warriors are doing, and know once and for all how to do killer DPS. These are some of the runes that we see people using: Flagellation, Blood Surge, Consumed by Rage, and of course Single-Minded Fury. But let's make sure that everybody's on the same page, gear-wise and rune-wise. So right now on the screen, you're gonna see all the gear used by the top 5 players. You'll be able to easily compare and contrast what they're taking into raid and decide for yourself if you feel like you're behind. We'll also be able to dig into what all their runes are. So let's do that now, and then we're gonna be able to see, is anybody varying from these 4 runes? There's definitely more than just these 4 used in Nomer overall, but on Grubbis, who knows? In a moment, you're gonna see that, yeah, everyone actually does have these same runes, although there are other people that are in the top 20 that are using precise timing, so don't feel forced to use Blood Surge if you personally hate it. It will, of course, make you do a little worse if you have some good RNG with Blood Surge, but average case, they're super similar runes. Of course, you're also going to be wondering, are there any variations in the talents? Of course all these guys are going Fury, or at least they're going some type of dual wield arm spec. But in this case, everybody is using Fury. And there's not a whole lot of options really with what kind of talents would make sense. You're going to get crit. You're going to get, the next one is more rage on hits, extra AP. We need to have the in-rage stuff to get flurry, offhand weapon damage, and then our CDs. They're fantastic. Let's dig into what's actually going on in the timelines now. You'll see that heroic strike's getting cast a whole bunch, that way you can get Blood Surge procs for slam. But you gotta make sure that you do your higher damage per rage moves first, so you need to use Bloodthirst on CD, and to a lesser extent, get Whirlwind on CD too. But you need to prioritize Bloodthirst over Whirlwind, so make sure you don't mess that part up. Personally, I prefer using precise timing. I don't like RNG. You may want to replay that if you want to get a better look at it, but these guys really aren't super lucky, and you'll be able to tell from looking at these cast distribution logs. I'm going to overlay them on top of each other really fast so you can see that all these guys are doing really similar ability usage and they have very similar damage profiles. Try to pay attention to the shape of the curve, because when we're overlaying these, there's going to be so few differences that it's going to kind of look like they're all the same. But in a moment, we're going to make them fade out a bit, and then you're going to be able to tell that, no, they do vary, but it's just very slight. In general, they all follow the same pattern. As you can see here, it has so little variation. They have very, very similar ability usage amounts, and that's also a way you could try to derive how lucky they are. They really didn't get all that lucky. But you might be wondering, how well did they do? I only showed that for a second at the start, so let's show that, and I'll make sure that we put the DPS numbers and the actual names of the players closer to each other. As you can see, you can do a ton of DPS, and there's not a whole lot of other classes that can really compete on this fight. The top 20 warriors is basically the same as the top 20 players on this encounter, which is awesome. Reminds me of the good old days in 2019 Classic. Seeing people play this well is meant to be encouraging and interesting. They're great players. They probably hit the buttons better than you could, but it doesn't really matter that much. If you had the same group of people you played with and you had all the same preparation going into your raids, you'd only do slightly worse than them. So don't look at these players as an example of something you never can be. It's more like if you, instead of spending an extra 2 hours in a bad run, you put an extra 2 hours into prep and meeting people that you really enjoy spending your time with, then you could accomplish 99% of what they do, and you'd probably enjoy the game more. And also, when things go to plan, it feels really good. It doesn't feel like you spent 2 hours doing chores. It's fantastic, and you should try it. And click that if you're not subscribed, or this video, YouTube thinks you like it. I don't know, hopefully you do.